The alien warship Oblivion's spear smelled like burnt metal, leaking coolant, and fear. Mostly fear. Red emergency lights flashed across the massive black corridors while warning sirens screamed loud enough to shake the walls. Crew members sprinted through the hallways carrying weapons, cargo crates, or whatever valuables they could steal before abandoning ship. Somewhere deep in the lower reactor decks, explosions boomed hard enough to make the floor vibrate. Nobody looked down. Nobody ever looked down. Which was exactly why an exhausted human janitor named Derek Cole was still asleep inside a maintenance closet 3 decks beneath the primary hangar. He lay sprawled across folded sanitation uniforms with one boot hanging off his foot, snoring peacefully beside 3 empty snack wrappers and a half-finished bottle of alien liquor that was probably illegal in 6 galaxies. The closet door rattled from another distant explosion. Derek opened one eye. 5 more minutes, he muttered. A second explosion hit harder. Dust fell from the ceiling vent directly onto his face. He slowly sat upright, scratched his chest, and stared around the dark closet in confusion. Why is the ship trying to die again? The emergency alarm answered him immediately. Warning! Critical hull failure detected. Evacuation protocols active. Derek blinked twice. Then he checked the time on his wrist device. Are you kidding me? He groaned. My shift ended 3 hours ago. He shoved the closet door open and stepped into chaos. Crew members were running in every direction. Alien officers screamed contradictory orders while smoke poured through ceiling vents. Sparks burst from exposed wiring overhead. And directly in front of Derek, some terrified officer dropped an entire tray of glowing purple noodles across the freshly cleaned floor. Derek stopped walking. He stared silently at the mess. The officer froze. For a brief moment, the fear of death became less important than the expression on the human's face. You serious right now? Derek asked quietly. The officer pointed toward the alarms. The ship is under attack. And the noodles under attack too? Derek snapped. Because they sure didn't survive. The officer fled immediately. Derek sighed in disappointment and grabbed his cleaning cart from the wall. The Oblivion spear was one of the deadliest warships in the sector. Nearly 2 kilometers long, armed with enough plasma cannons to vaporize moons, and commanded by Admiral Zirin, a reptilian alien famous for winning battles through overwhelming force and overwhelming cowardice. Derek hated working there. Mostly because nobody respected maintenance crews. Humans especially. To the alien crew, humans were useful for lifting heavy objects, surviving dangerous conditions, and cleaning things nobody else wanted to touch. Apparently humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization was having strong backs and low salary expectations. Derek personally blamed Earth politicians. He pushed the cart down the corridor while alarms blared around him. Unlike the officers panicking overhead, Derek actually understood how the ship worked. He knew which vents connected to which decks, which power relays overheated, which doors jammed if kicked hard enough. Mostly because he was the one fixing everything while the engineering department took credit. A familiar female voice suddenly echoed from the nearby command station. If you're moving that slowly, human, perhaps the explosions damaged your primitive nervous system. Derek looked up immediately. Commander Lyra Vex stood beside a flickering control panel, issuing orders through her wrist communicator. Even covered in sparks and smoke, she somehow still looked intimidatingly elegant. Tall, blue-skinned, sharp gold eyes, and absolutely terrifying. Her military uniform hugged her athletic figure while silver markings glowed faintly along her neck. Most male crew members avoided eye contact around her. Derek unfortunately lacked survival instincts. Nah, he replied casually. I'm just emotionally devastated about the noodles. Lyra rolled her eyes. I fail to understand how your species became spacefaring. Pure luck and unresolved anger. That actually made one corner of her mouth twitch upward. Derek noticed. Unfortunately, so did she. Her expression hardened instantly. You should evacuate, she said. Enemy boarding craft breached the outer defense line. Cool. Derek replied. Do I still gotta finish deck sanitation first? You are remarkably irritating during life-threatening situations. And you're weirdly hot during military disasters, so I guess we all got problems. Several nearby officers nearly choked. Lyra stared at him for 3 long seconds. Then, to everyone's horror, her silver markings brightened slightly. Alien embarrassment. Derek grinned. Oh my God! He whispered. Space Princess is blushing. I should have you executed. You say that every week. Because every week you deserve it. Before Derek could answer, the entire ship suddenly lurched sideways violently. Crew members screamed. Lights flickered. A massive explosion thundered somewhere above them. Then came the voice everyone hated hearing. Admiral Zirin. All command personnel abandon ship immediately. Repeat, all command personnel evacuate immediately. Derek frowned. That was fast. Lyra's expression darkened instantly. He's retreating. Another explosion rocked the corridor. Officers began rushing toward escape hangars in total panic. No formation. No discipline. Just fear. Derek watched them shove lower-ranked crew aside to save themselves first. Typical. Lyra looked furious but activated her communicator anyway. Commander Vex responding. Moving to evacuation sector 7. Then she looked at Derek. For a brief second, her expression softened. You should leave too, human. Derek snorted. Lady, nobody even remembers I exist. Another explosion cut the power completely. Darkness swallowed the corridor. Emergency red lights activated seconds later. But by then the crew was already gone. Running. Abandoning ship. Abandoning everyone beneath command level. Lyra cursed softly under her breath before being pulled away by fleeing officers. Derek stood alone in the flashing red hallway holding a mop. Silence settled slowly after the evacuation alarms faded. Then a new warning appeared across every monitor on the ship. Enemy boarding vessels approaching. Derek stared at the message. Then at the muddy footprints now covering his freshly cleaned floor. A long, dangerous silence followed. He slowly closed his eyes. I swear to God, he muttered, gripping the mop handle tighter. If these idiots tracked mud across my clean deck. He looked toward the distant docking bay where enemy soldiers were preparing to enter. Somebody's dying tonight. The first enemy soldier died because of a toilet. Not a heroic death. Not an honorable death. A toilet. Derek watched through a cracked security monitor while 3 armored invaders marched cautiously through Sanitation Corridor 12 with rifles raised. Their leader scanned the dark hallway nervously. Motion readings indicate lifeforms nearby. Yeah, Derek muttered from inside a maintenance vent. Mostly bacteria. The soldiers advanced another few steps. One of them kicked open the restroom door beside him. The second he stepped inside, Derek slammed his palm onto a stolen engineering detonator. A violent blast erupted from the plumbing system. The toilet exploded like a grenade. Water, ceramic shards, and pressurized sewage launched the alien soldier backward into the hallway wall hard enough to crack his helmet. The other 2 froze in horror. Derek grabbed the intercom microphone beside him. Attention guests, he announced calmly. Please do not abuse the facilities. One soldier fired wildly toward the speakers. The other whispered, There are survivors on board. Derek grinned. Oh, this is gonna be fun. He crawled deeper through the maintenance vents while sirens echoed across the abandoned warship. Smoke drifted through dim corridors illuminated only by flashing red emergency lights. The enemy boarding force expected easy salvage. Instead, they had entered the world's angriest janitor's workplace. And Derek knew every inch of it. He dropped from the vent into a maintenance station and immediately started typing commands into an old control console. Come on, come on! The ship AI flickered onto the dusty screen. A cold female hologram appeared. Authorization denied. Derek rolled his eyes. Seriously? I literally unclogged your coolant filtration system last month. Please provide command authorization. Derek sighed dramatically and pulled out a crumpled maintenance badge. The AI scanned it. Pause. Then, identity confirmed. Derek Cole, Senior Sanitation Technician. Damn right. Another pause followed. Then the AI spoke again in a strangely disappointed tone. You are now the highest-ranking crew member remaining on board. Derek blinked. That's incredibly depressing. Congratulations, the AI continued. You are technically less incompetent than previous command staff. Derek pointed at the hologram. See? This is why nobody likes you. Correction. Nobody liked Admiral Zirin either. That's fair. The ship rumbled violently from another enemy docking impact. New alerts flooded the screen. Boarding parties detected. Multiple sectors compromised. Derek cracked his neck. All right, he muttered. Let's commit several war crimes. He rerouted power manually through maintenance lines only he understood. Hallway lights shut off across decks 7 through 10. Blast doors sealed randomly. Gravity fluctuated violently. Enemy soldiers suddenly found themselves trapped inside unfamiliar corridors while the ship itself turned against them. Derek smiled proudly. Years of unpaid overtime were finally paying dividends. A squad of invaders entered the cafeteria cautiously. The lights flickered. Then every vending machine in the room activated at once. The soldiers froze. One machine beeped cheerfully. Then launched boiling cans of soup at high velocity directly into their helmets. Another machine exploded open, firing metal snack containers like shotgun rounds. One alien screamed as carbonated drinks blasted him in the face. Derek's voice echoed through nearby speakers. Please keep hands and feet inside the dining area at all times. The surviving invaders retreated in panic. Meanwhile, Derek sat comfortably inside a hidden maintenance crawl space eating stolen chips while watching security footage. This is the greatest night of my life. Suddenly the emergency comm panel beside him crackled. Derek? He nearly choked on a chip. Lyra? Static hissed briefly before her voice returned. How are you alive? Derek shrugged instinctively even though she couldn't see him. Built different. In reality, Lyra sat inside a drifting emergency pod several kilometers away, staring at live security feeds from the warship. Feeds showing Derek ambushing trained soldiers with industrial cleaning equipment. She watched a maintenance drone slam directly into an invader's face while spraying burning sanitation foam. The alien officer beside her looked horrified. Lyra looked fascinated. You are fighting an entire boarding force alone? She asked. Technically, the exploding toilets are helping. You are insane. You say insane. I say properly motivated. Another explosion shook the ship. Derek casually ducked as sparks burst from overhead wiring. Lyra watched him through a camera feed. Dirty gray tank top. Sweat-covered arms. Grease stains across his chest. The human looked exhausted, annoyed, and strangely attractive. Her silver markings brightened slightly. Derek noticed immediately through the monitor. Oh my God! He laughed. Are you flirting during a war crime? I am evaluating combat efficiency. Lady, your voice literally changed pitch. I hate that humans notice everything. That's because everybody ignores us until stuff starts exploding. For a moment neither spoke. Then Lyra's expression hardened. The Admiral abandoned us intentionally. Derek frowned. What? There are still hundreds of lower-deck workers trapped on board, she said quietly. Engineers. Cargo crews. Maintenance workers. Derek's joking expression disappeared instantly. On another monitor, he watched enemy soldiers execute a wounded mechanic in Corridor 9. Something cold entered his eyes. Yeah, he muttered softly. I'm definitely killing somebody tonight. Lyra stared at the screen. The playful janitor was gone now. What remained looked dangerous. Derek stood up slowly and grabbed a large industrial chemical container from the wall rack. Then another. Then a plasma welder. The AI spoke calmly behind him. Warning. Combining those substances violates 17 intergalactic safety treaties. Derek started dragging barrels toward the nearest ventilation shaft. Good, he replied. Far below him, another enemy squad entered the lower decks. Their commander scanned the dark hallway nervously. Spread out, he ordered. Find the human. Above them, inside the vents, Derek smiled like a sleep-deprived lunatic. Okay, he whispered while opening the chemical valves. Now we're getting creative. By the third hour on board the Oblivion Spear, the enemy troops stopped calling Derek the human. Now they called him the thing in the walls. Entire squads vanished inside maintenance corridors. Security feeds showed glimpses of him appearing suddenly out of ceiling vents covered in grease and smoke before disappearing again like some deranged raccoon with anger issues. One terrified soldier whispered into his communicator, "He keeps laughing." Another replied, "Why is he cleaning during combat?" Because Derek had just finished mopping blood off Corridor 14 while muttering about stains setting into the floor. The lower decks had become a nightmare. Lights flickered constantly. Steam hissed through broken pipes. Automated cleaning bots rolled silently through dark hallways carrying sharpened metal tools Derek had welded onto them while drinking stolen alien energy drinks. One enemy commando turned a corner and immediately screamed as a maintenance drone launched itself directly at his face with spinning scrub brushes. Another slipped across a freshly waxed floor and smashed helmet first into a sealed blast door. Derek's voice echoed calmly through the speakers. "Caution! Wet floor!" A loud crash followed. "Very wet floor!" Deep inside the ship, the elite boarding squad advanced carefully through reactor maintenance tunnels. Unlike the earlier invaders, these soldiers moved slowly and professionally. Heavy armor, thermal scanners, pulse rifles. One carried a flamethrower. Their commander studied the darkness carefully. "He's using the ship against us," she growled. "No," another soldier whispered nervously. "He's hunting us." Above them, hidden inside the ventilation system, Derek grinned while holding a giant wrench. "Ah," he whispered. "That's sweet." He dropped silently behind the last soldier. Clang. The wrench slammed into the alien's helmet hard enough to send him unconscious instantly. Before the others could react, Derek kicked open a maintenance valve beside them. A violent blast of freezing coolant exploded across the corridor. Elite commandos slipped everywhere instantly. One smashed into a wall. Another accidentally fired his rifle into the ceiling. Derek sprinted through the chaos laughing like a lunatic. "Oh, come on!" he yelled. "You guys invade one warship and suddenly nobody respects workplace safety regulations." Blaster fire chased him through the hallway. He dove through a side hatch just before plasma bolts melted the wall behind him. His breathing became heavier now. Sweat covered his face. His arms burned from exhaustion. He hadn't slept properly in almost 20 hours. But every time he considered slowing down, he remembered the dead mechanics on Deck 9. And Admiral Zirin abandoning everyone beneath command rank. That rage kept him moving. The emergency comm crackled again. "Derek?" Lyra's voice. "Still alive. Still listening." "Yeah?" he panted. "You sound terrible. I'm fighting an army with janitorial supplies. I think I'm doing pretty good considering the circumstances." A small laugh escaped her. "God, even that sounded attractive." "You are aware the enemy commander placed a bounty on your head?" she asked. Derek paused. "How much?" 200,000 credits. He looked genuinely offended. "That's it." Lyra laughed harder this time. It was the first time he'd ever heard her laugh openly. Warm. Dangerous. Weirdly addictive. Derek smiled despite himself. Then alarms suddenly blared across the ship again. "Warning. Reactor coolant failure." "Oh, son of a..." Derek sprinted toward the reactor chamber immediately. If the reactor overloaded, everyone on board died. Including him. Including Lyra if she attempted rescue. He slid through the blast doors and stopped dead. The cooling system had ruptured completely. Steam filled the chamber. Sparks burst everywhere. Without thinking, Derek ripped off his ruined shirt and climbed directly into the maintenance shaft beside the reactor core. Lyra watched remotely through security feeds and completely forgot what she was saying. Humans were already considered physically durable by galactic standards, but watching Derek manually wrench open overheated coolant valves while covered in sweat and glowing reactor light was doing very strange things to her nervous system. An officer beside her noticed her glowing silver markings. "Commander," he said carefully, "are you aroused?" Lyra didn't even look away from the screen. "Be silent or I will eject you into space." Back inside the reactor shaft, Derek finally slammed the last valve into place. Coolant roared back through the pipes. The reactor stabilized instantly. Derek leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Then the calm activated again. "You are either the bravest creature I have ever known," Lyra said softly, "or the stupidest. Little of column A, little of column B." For a moment neither spoke. Then her voice became quieter. "When this is over, I would like to see you again." Derek blinked. "Like dinner see me again?" "Yes." "Not execution see me again?" "I am considering both." "That's honestly the hottest thing anyone's ever said to me." Lyra shook her head, smiling. "Humans are unbelievable." "No, humans are underpaid." Suddenly proximity alarms screamed. The enemy commander had reached the bridge level. Derek's expression hardened immediately. "Well," he sighed, grabbing his plasma cutter from the floor. "Guess break time's over." Before disconnecting, Lyra spoke again. "Derek." "Yeah?" "Be careful." Something warm hit his chest unexpectedly. Nobody aboard this ship had ever said that to him before. Not really. Derek picked up his mop handle, plasma cutter, and chemical sprayer. Then he started walking toward the bridge through flickering red hallways covered in smoke. Meanwhile, the enemy commander stared nervously at sealed blast doors leading into command sector. Her soldiers were shaken, bleeding, terrified. One finally whispered, "What if the human is waiting for us?" The commander swallowed slowly. Then the intercom activated above them. Derek's exhausted voice echoed through the darkness. "Welcome to custodial services, sweetheart." The blast doors locked behind them. And suddenly every light went out. Darkness swallowed the bridge completely. The enemy commander raised her rifle instantly. "Thermal scanners online!" she barked. One soldier checked his visor nervously. I can't find him." Somewhere in the darkness, metal scraped softly. Another soldier panicked. "He's moving!" "No kidding," Derek's voice echoed calmly. "I usually do that." A plasma shot exploded through the dark. Then another. The soldiers fired wildly in every direction, while emergency red lights flickered weakly overhead. Derek moved between shadows silently through maintenance access panels hidden behind the bridge walls. Nobody except sanitation workers even knew those crawlspaces existed. Mostly because nobody important ever cleaned their own mess. Big mistake. A soldier suddenly screamed. The floor beneath him became slick instantly as Derek activated the emergency foam dispensers. Half the squad lost balance immediately. One crashed face first into a weapons console. Another accidentally fired into the ceiling. Sparks rained everywhere. Then gravity failed. The entire bridge lurched sideways as Derek overloaded the gravity stabilizers manually. Enemy soldiers slammed into walls screaming while loose equipment floated wildly through the air. Derek casually stepped from a side hatch wearing magnetic maintenance boots, holding a mop handle. The enemy commander stared at him in disbelief. "You!" she shouted. "You're the one responsible for this?" Derek looked around at the destroyed bridge. "Technically you guys destroyed most of it. I'm just improving morale." She fired instantly. Derek ducked behind the captain's chair while plasma bolts melted the wall behind him. Then he slammed his wrench against the control panel. Every toilet on command deck activated simultaneously. The commander frowned. "What?" A deafening pressure blast erupted from sanitation pipes behind the enemy squad. Industrial waste tanks exploded through maintenance grates like sewage-powered missiles. The blast launched armored soldiers across the bridge. One crashed directly through a holographic navigation table. Another disappeared screaming into a broken lift shaft. Derek peeked over the captain's chair. "Never disrespect plumbing," he advised seriously. The commander roared in fury and charged him with an energy blade. Derek immediately sprayed industrial floor wax across the deck. She slipped instantly. Her own momentum launched her directly into a shattered console. Crack. Silence. Derek stared at the unconscious commander. Then down at the spray bottle in his hand. "Damn," he muttered. "That actually worked." Around the bridge, surviving invaders slowly raised their hands. Nobody wanted to fight anymore. Not after the exploding toilets. One terrified soldier pointed shakily at Derek. "The human is insane." Derek leaned on his mop handle, breathing heavily. "No," he corrected. "I'm unionizing." Several hours later, the Oblivion's spear drifted silently through space once more. Except now the enemy troops were locked inside cargo bays under armed guard by surviving crew members Derek had rescued from the lower decks. And somehow, Derek had ended up sitting barefoot in the captain's chair eating stolen alien chips. The ship AI spoke calmly beside him. "Enemy forces officially surrendered 32 minutes ago. Cool. You are now acting commander of the vessel." Derek nearly choked. "Excuse me?" According to ancient military succession protocols, the highest-ranking surviving crew member responsible for maintaining operational functionality assumes command authority. Derek stared blankly. "I cleaned vomit out of hallway drains 3 days ago." "Correct, Captain?" "This galaxy sucks." The bridge doors slid open. Commander Lyra Vex walked inside slowly with several surviving officers behind her. The second the crew saw Derek sitting in the Admiral's chair wearing dirty work pants and holding a bag of chips, complete silence filled the bridge. Derek lifted one chip awkwardly. "Sup?" one officer whispered, horrified. "The janitor became captain." Lyra, meanwhile, looked dangerously amused. Her glowing silver markings brightened the second she saw Derek alive. "You survived," she said softly. "Barely," Derek admitted. "I think I inhaled chemicals that technically dissolved 3 of my internal organs." "That explains your personality." He grinned tiredly. God, she looked good. Even exhausted and covered in smoke. Lyra slowly approached the captain's chair while every officer pretended not to watch them. "You defended an entire warship alone," she said quietly. "Yeah, well," Derek shrugged. "Nobody else was gonna clean up the mess." To everyone's shock, Lyra leaned down and kissed him quickly. The entire bridge froze. One officer accidentally dropped his weapon. Another looked physically ill. Derek blinked several times. "Okay, well," he whispered. "I suddenly understand why people go to war." Lyra smirked slightly. "You are still irritating. And you're still terrifyingly hot." "Careful, Captain." "Oh God," Derek groaned. "Please don't call me that." Before Lyra could answer, alarms suddenly echoed across the bridge again. The main viewscreen activated. Admiral Zirin's command shuttle appeared on screen requesting docking permission. The coward had returned. Probably expecting survivors to praise his strategic retreat. Instead, he walked onto the bridge 10 minutes later and stopped dead in horror. The ship was operational. Enemy prisoners lined the walls. Crew members glared at him openly. And sitting in his command chair was Derek, eating chips, barefoot. The Admiral's eyes twitched violently. "You," he hissed. Derek waved casually. "Hey boss. What happened here?" Before Derek could answer, the ship AI interrupted. Displaying combat logs. Security footage immediately filled every screen across the bridge. Footage of the Admiral abandoning lower-ranked crews. Footage of Derek defending the ship alone. Exploding toilets. Flying vending machines. Screaming invaders slipping across polished floors. Complete silence followed. Then one surviving mechanic started laughing. Another joined. Then the entire bridge erupted. Even Lyra covered her mouth trying not to laugh while the Admiral stood there humiliated beyond recovery. Derek leaned back in the captain's chair proudly. "So," he said casually, "about my overtime pay." Lyra stepped beside him, crossing her arms. "No overtime." Derek looked disappointed. Her silver markings glowed brighter. "But," she added softly, "you may qualify for other benefits." Several officers immediately looked traumatized. Weeks later, stories about the human janitor spread across the galaxy. Enemy fleets warned each other about humans hiding inside maintenance crews. Pirates abandoned ships the moment they detected human life signs on board. And somewhere deep in space, Derek stood inside a freshly repaired hallway staring at muddy footprints across his perfectly clean floor. He closed his eyes slowly. Then sighed. "I clean one warship," he muttered, grabbing his mop. "And suddenly everybody thinks humans are scary."